Hello DHS lovers, Aniket here, and in today's short lecture, we are going to be discussing how to calculate in chess using a clear and structured approach. So let us get started. I'll be creating a Lee chess study first, and in this study, I'll be including the position that we are going to be going over today. Okay, so our study is in place. So what is calculation in chess? Well, calculation is the ability to visualize moves and to evaluate the resulting positions. So what we are essentially trying to do is, in a given position, we are trying to look a few moves ahead, and based upon our findings, we'll decide what move it is we would like to play. And our objective is simple. We want to find the best possible continuation for our pieces. So the position that you see in front of your screen right now, it occurred in one of my games. I was playing the black pieces here, and my opponent made the move b2 b4. So how do we go about making moves in this position? Well, before even we think about making moves, what we must do is we must evaluate the position in order to get an understanding of what is really going on here. So let us start with that first. So we look at three very simple things. First is king safety, second is the material count, and third is the quality of the pieces. So when we look at both the kings here, no king is under any direct checkmating attack. But I would say that white's king is slightly less safe because of these dark squared weaknesses surrounding it. The material in the position is even. The major pieces in the position aren't doing much because they are on their initial ranks and the position is closed at the moment. The minor pieces look significantly more interesting because they are occupying the central squares. It may seem to you at first glance that white has the better quality of pieces here, especially the minor pieces because they occupy more of the central squares. But let us have a deeper look at them. The bishop on f3 is currently hemmed in by its own pawn, and it doesn't have many squares where it can go to, so it doesn't look like a good piece to me. The knight on d5 may seem strong, but it can be easily kicked out by a move such as e6. The bishop on c3 has become weak by the move b2 b4, and currently the knight is the only piece which is guarding the bishop, so it looks like it can become a potential weakness. Our knight on the other hand is very strong. It is here on the central outpost, and it is being supported by our bishop on g7. Our bishop is also eyeing the potential weakness of white, which is the bishop on c3. And I also noticed that our knight can get up with a check, opening up an attack on the bishop. Our knight on e8 might look passive, but it is better than it would have been on f6 because it is keeping our bishop open to potential attacks. Okay, now that we have understood the position, let us consider our candidate moves. So what moves would you like to make? Well, we prioritize forcing moves first. And what are forcing moves? Well, they force our opponents to respond, and we consider forcing moves first because it significantly reduces the amount of variations that we need to look at. And forcing moves are checks, captures, and threats. Now let's have a look at them. Do we have any checks here? We only have one meaningful check, that is knight takes f3 check. That also opens up an attack on the bishop as we saw earlier. Do we have captures here? Well, apart from this check and capture, we have c takes b4 and b takes c4. These are the two other captures that we have. Do we have any threats here? Well, the only meaningful threat to me seems like e6. So these are our four candidate moves. Now let us start visualizing the positions that could emerge after we have played one of these moves, and then we may decide what we would like to go for. Okay, so let's start with the most forcing move first, which is knight takes f3 check. So what happens after knight takes f3 check? Well, the most natural response is the queen captures on f3, and in that position we have opened up an attack on the bishop. Then we may consider a move such as e6. Because if the knight moves, let's say to e3, which is the only safe square here, then we can gobble up the bishop and we are simply up a piece. And many players would actually think that this is working, and they would instantly play the move knight takes f3 check. But do you see the problem with this approach? If you have figured out that when we play the move e6 after knight takes f3 check and queen takes f3, white doesn't have to move his knight. He can play an intermediate move, bishop takes g7. And if we capture the knight in that position, then we lose an exchange on f8, and after the king takes on f8, we are simply down an exchange, and the position is worse for us. So if you've had trouble visualizing this far, let me put it on the board for you. So knight takes f3 check, queen takes f3, e6, and yes, if the knight moves, we win a piece. But the knight doesn't have to move. Bishop takes g7. And if we capture the knight, we simply lose an exchange. And again, this position is worse for us. So this is not something we would want to go for. In this position, you may say that we can capture the bishop first, and that is right. But after the knight moves, we have nothing here. We have just lost our very good knight for a bad bishop, and we have also lost our fianchetted bishop for a potentially weak piece. So this doesn't seem to be working for us. So let us consider e6 first before considering any of these captures, simply because e6 is more intimately tied to the weakness in the position. So what happens if we play the move e6? Again, if the knight gets up, we play knight takes f3 check. Discovered attack on the bishop, we win the bishop. But again, we must ask ourselves the question, when we create a threat, does white have to respond to the threat? Well, what happens if white plays the move bishop takes d4? Then what do we do? Again, we look at forcing moves first, and then you could have easily spotted bishop takes d4 check. Remember, that is a check to the king, and the knight is also hanging. If the king moves, we simply capture the knight. And also notice that the knight can block the check, but it is not a good move simply because we can capture the knight, and that also comes with check. So we are simply winning a piece here. So it doesn't seem to me that white can save a piece in this variation. Okay. So now let us look at both the captures in this position. The pawn captures, I mean. C takes b4. What can white do here? Well, white can play the move bishop takes b4, and white has solved this problem of the problem piece. There is no longer this check with a discovered attack. So that doesn't seem to be working for us. What happens if we play the move b takes c4? What happens then? Well, white can play the move king to h1, solving the problem of his position. And we no longer have a discovered attack with a check. So that doesn't win a piece. And in that position, you may say that, well, if the king moves, we'll gobble up the pawn. And yes, we do win a pawn, but what happens when the queen recaptures? The queen is now guarding the bishop, and white has simply improved his position for the price of one pawn. And that doesn't seem promising either. So out of the 4 moves, what move do you think gives us the best position? Well, if your answer is e6, you are absolutely correct. This move wins a piece, and this is the move that I played after calculating all of this. And my opponent, after a long think, decided to drop his bishop back and give up this knight. So I captured a knight. He played c takes d5, and I went on to convert the position very comfortably. Okay, so we learned about calculation today. So let us summarize the process very quickly. So first, we evaluate the position in order to understand what candidate moves we would like to consider. And only then do we start visualizing moves. And based upon our findings, we decide what move we would like to play. Very simple. Okay. So I've got a little position for you to solve. Here black has played the move. Queen takes b2. How do you think should white proceed here? Let me know your answers in the comment section below. And I would really appreciate if you can verbalize what you have understood here in terms of evaluation and the candidate move consideration, and what lines are you seeing before you have decided the move. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.